You know, like you experience a tough moment at work, you know, take 2 minutes to just go to your office, turn the light off, and, I work with 18 to 22-year-olds, so I'm just like, all right, now let me
gotta be arrival. If you know how to worry, you know how to meditate. It's the same concept. You're just using positivity as the focus now.
But that's real peace, though. It's like when you can have that in the chaos, kind of like you said, when you have your moment, and then you're like, okay, bring yourself back, and then you're able to find that peace. Like that's the thing. But I don't want to skate past
Miss Jasmine Jenkins. So welcome back to the couch, y'all. I am so excited to have you guys join us today. I have a beautiful guest who I will introduce in a second, but before we get there, I need you to subscribe to the channel. And I need you to send this video to 5 people. Send it in your church group chat, your family group chat, the cousins, everybody. Send this episode to them because we're going to be dropping some love, some inspiration, some knowledge, all the things, okay? And what else do I need y'all to do? Oh, there's a money thing down there. Go ahead and click that and see what's up. And I want you guys to stay tuned to the community, empowerment community, the empowerment circle is here for y'all. So I need y'all to make sure that you go click the link in the description and join the empowerment circle. It is waiting for you. And if ain't nobody told you today, I hope you're being seen. I hope you're feeling loved. I hope you're feeling heard wherever you are. And if somebody said it, I love you. Okay? I do. You're loved. Know that. So today we have a special guest joining us, Miss Jasmine Jenkins. Okay? And she is cool as a breeze on a hot summer day. Okay? With iced tea and everything, y'all. Sweet tea, okay? And she's going to be sharing her story, an inspiring story of her journey of growth, healing, and success as she dives into the importance of consciousness and in unraveling trauma and fostering personal well-being. Jasmine, it's so good to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. But before we start, how's your heart today?
Oh, my heart is full. I've seen a lot of family this weekend.
Nice.
And I feel like I felt closeness that I've never felt before. So, get to see my grandmas, my mom, my dad, my nephew, my brothers, my sisters. So just feeling really full. Thanks for asking.
Oh, no problem. So hopefully you're even more full after you leave here in this beautiful place. Who is Jasmine Jenkins? Introduce yourself to the people.
Who is Jasmine Jenkins? Okay, so I'm a multi-layered being. I wear a lot of hats, whether it is, Jasmine Jenkins, the coach in basketball, Jasmine Jenkins, the sister, the friend. So, that feels like a loaded question.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say I'm everything, everywhere, all the time.
This period. Okay. The coach. Let's talk about the coach.
Okay.
How did you get started in sports? When did that start?
Yeah. So I got started in sports. I originally was a soccer player. I love soccer. I wanted to be like Mia Hamm, huge soccer fan. But my older sister, she was a hooper. And so, as I got a little older, growing up playing, on the outdoor courts with the boys, I kind of took a liking to basketball. And then I realized as I got older, like you get full scholarships for basketball. And so I was a first generation college student. So, once I found that out, I'm like, okay, this is my, path to getting into basketball. So, just kind of started taking it serious. I have a few mentors that I'm still in touch with today that kind of coached me and mentored me. And so got into basketball at a young age. I was a soccer player first. And then, went through college, and I originally wanted to do something in business. Like I wanted to be in consulting. I wanted to help companies be healthier. And then, I had my first full-time job out of college, and I was like, this is actually terrible. Like I hated it. And so it was a more traditional, at the desk type of job. And so, I was like, okay, I want to be closer to basketball. And then I kind of quit my job on a whim. Don't do that. Don't quit your job without a plan. That's what I did. I was just like, miserable. I quit without a plan, and then, kind of got into my coaching journey. So You know, I'm in year 4 at Davidson, and I love it.
That is good. For women who want to become a coach, what was like that journey for you?
Yeah, so I feel like everybody has different journeys. Everybody has different avenues that they can get into coaching. But for me, you know, I kind of did multiple things, and I think that made me just an attractive candidate to hire because, you know, I was coaching travel basketball, AAU. I was coaching Division III. I was working with PGC, who Marquis also works for. So, you know, I just had all of those things under my belt, and I kind of built, you know, a name for myself. I was just, you know, in rooms that people mentioned me in rooms that I wasn't in. And I think that's kind of like what it comes down to is you kind of have to get lucky. Like there's not a lot of turnover happening in coaching. You know, people get to wear sweats to work. They're not leaving their jobs.
That's true.
So, you know, you kind of have to just build yourself up, build your name by doing different things in the basketball community. Network with different people, and, you know, obviously luck has to strike, and you just got to be ready when your time comes.
Got it. Okay. So doing my research about Miss Jenkins, I noticed that you are outside of coaching, just your personal life. You're very in tuned to the spirit inside of you, and you do yoga?
I do yoga. I do yoga.
How did that get started?
Yeah, so I grew up in Georgia. I'm from the Bible Belt South. You know, my grandparents both of my grandfathers were pastors, and, you know, my grandmas were first ladies of the church. So it was like a very serious, like spiritual religion type of vibe.
Okay, so I get the vibes. Yeah.
So Southern Baptist is just a little different.
Oh, it's way different.
So anyways, growing up, you know, like, I feel like religion in the Black community hasn't always been the healthiest. And I feel like, you know, I was hurt in certain ways while it was communicated to me as like, oh, well, this is like the right thing to do per the Bible. And so long story short, I know this is like where you're like, how does this connect to yoga? But
you could give us the long story. We got to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me slow down. But yeah, so just kind of being, you know, growing up, being hurt with religion, but still wanting like spiritual wholeness, I think.
For sure.
So when I found yoga when I was like midway through college, and it was kind of just something that we did as like recovery for our bodies. And then I realized that there's like an element of yoga that kind of combines the mind and the body. And so you know, you're in down dog and you're like, you know, stressing, and you have to breathe through it, and it just kind of helps you connect those two things. So for me, that's kind of how I got started into yoga. And then what it's become is just like, to me, yoga is a version of church. You know, it's a version of like taking time to meditate and just realign yourself, which is what, you know, a lot of people do when they're in church. Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of how I got started in yoga.
Okay. Go back a little bit. So church, is it like, what did you find out, or how did it hurt you, the religion of it all? Like, in what ways?
Yeah, so I was really struggling with like, and obviously this is after researching a lot and just trying to find, okay, what is it that I believe in? And so, you know, coming up, I feel like the way that my parents would, you know, they would whip me, or the way they would kind of like want to correct me and then be like, oh, well, you know, God told me to do this, or this is right per the Bible. And, you know, I also kind of struggled with like the sexuality piece. It's like, okay, well, if I only date this version of human, you know, if I only date men, then I'm like going to heaven. But if I date other people outside of that, then like I'm going to hell. Like it just, I really struggled with that. And, you know, growing up, it was kind of like all or nothing in my household, because we went to church every Wednesday and Sunday, and we dressed up, and, you know, we had to, you know, you had to be the model. And so, you know, I really kind of struggled with that because it just didn't align with my soul, you know. And I think that it's interesting when it comes to religion, because if you think about religion in general, like the sole purpose of religion was to like push the white man's agenda. I don't know, like if this is like
it's open.
Okay, cool. I was like, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but it was like built to push the white man's agenda and to like make people conform, similar to mass education. So to me, you know, once I kind of learned more about, okay, why religion was built in the first place, like it kind of turned me off, because I'm like, we're over here believing these things that like aren't even from like the spirit itself, if that makes sense. These were white man's words, recreated and reinterpreted. And now we have to like follow this book, otherwise we're going to die like lonely and in hell. Like, you know what I mean? So it just, there were some things that I kind of struggled with. And I think, you know, the way that religion was kind of used, especially in the South, you know, it was really hurtful, and it kind of strained a lot of my relationships with my family. So, you know, that's kind of my take on why religion to me is like, hasn't been ideal.
Got it.
For my journey.
My story is similar. Growing up as a PK, it was hard to, in the beginning, I was sold out for Christ though. I was one of them people that,
amen,
I'm telling you, and I'm still sold out for Christ. It's just it's in the way of unconditional love, which is, I've learned that how I am and all that I am was created by God. Good things. And a lot of times Christians get stuck in the condemnation, you're going to hell, the bad side, and they forget to teach that God is a God that's based off of love. God is love. And that's my religion. That's the relationship I have with Christ now. And I can never be separate from him no matter what I choose, is what I believe.
Yes.
And none of us. And I know my spiritual mom always says, God made you as itself, and it'll never be separate from itself. It's impossible to do.
Okay, can we get into it though? Because I feel like your interpretation of God is really beautiful, because that was another thing that I struggled with when it came to religion, was that the depiction of God in, you know, the Southern Baptist, you know, view was this Middle Eastern white man with blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm like, okay, but if God is who we say he is, or what they are, then like he's everything. They're everything. They're everything everywhere all the time, like I said earlier. So I think that is really important, because to me, God can be anything that helps you expand outwardly in a positive manner. Like God could be this couch, you know, God could be joy, God could be jasmine, God could be, you know, all these other things, these plants, you know, basketball, podcasting, you know, so there's so many versions. And I think that I wish that was acknowledged more, because to me, it's like, why limit this ominous being that's supposed to be like,
oh, see, put in no box.
Okay, see, that's what I'm saying.
No limit, no nothing. But that's what church did to me. It put God in this box where he only lives here.
Right.
And I'm like, no, because I would rather go out in the woods and have church than have it in the building with y'all. I would rather go sit by the ocean, meditate, do yoga, and then write my thoughts down. And he speaks clearly in those moments. He or she, whatever your definition of that is. I don't judge. I'm very open to all things. And church has definitely limited a lot of people's beliefs, and those limiting beliefs keep them stuck, I believe. And you brought up a great word, and I want to start talking about it. So let's start with this first one. What is consciousness versus unconsciousness, and how do you see the impact on both of those? So let's start with what is consciousness and unconsciousness first to you.
Versus unconsciousness, right? Okay. So, you know, first of all, I just want to start. I'm not an expert on consciousness, maybe more so just like a testimonial.
For sure.
So to me, consciousness, and I feel like it's best explained with just like examples. But consciousness is where you are not necessarily like a participant in your life, but necessarily like a witness. So yes, we're participating in this conversation, but when you're able to kind of like take yourself outside of the conversation and like recognize that it's happening. Does that make sense? And unconsciousness is kind of just where there's like this, like you're just in a fog. You don't really realize what you're doing. It best explained as like autopilot. So to me, it's just like the ability to recognize that something is like happening or something's there, or that something is like present is consciousness, and the inability to do that is unconsciousness.
So what I'm hearing is consciousness is basically being aware of where you are, what's happening. And there's this mind game where I hope I can, you should put it in the show for sure. CJ, I'm gonna send you the clip. It's a mind game where they ask how often does the white team, it's a black team, a black and white team, they're wearing black jerseys and other teams wearing white jerseys.
Okay, good clarity.
And they're asking how often does the white team pass the ball? But the black team is passing the ball and they're all running around the whole screen.
Right, but you're only paying attention to
the white team, right? And basically the people say the number at the end, and I want y'all to, when we post this video, y'all say how many times they pass the ball. And I'm not going to tell y'all what the end is because you have to guess it.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
But it's so crazy how we were so focused on only the white team that we missed everything else. And that is unconscious. So we're only conscious of what we're looking for, meaning if we're aware of everything, then we're like, I'm aware of this tree, I'm aware of this light, I'm aware of this candle, I'm aware. And that's consciousness. And a lot of us are walking around numb because of pain, trauma, things of that nature. And how do you think knowing or becoming conscious and knowing the difference in consciousness and unconsciousness, how does that affect or impact our personal growth and helps us heal from trauma?
Yeah, well, I think consciousness makes you aware that you have trauma, first of all.
Okay.
And I think that, and I think I've dealt with depression and anxiety, when I was coming up through college and, just in my high school years mostly. And I think that now when I feel sadness, it's more so situational. Like I feel too conscious to be sad or depressed because like I understand that it's, first of all, it's temporary and that it's not actually like who I am. When let's say I mess up a conversation or I hurt somebody's feelings, a lot of people feel shame. And I think like the unconscious version is that you feel shame and then you go into like, well, I'm not good enough. And then, well, maybe I just shouldn't be with anyone or, so you just kind of go into that spiral. And that's the unconscious version. But the conscious version is just kind of acknowledging like, okay, these were the circumstances that were around that situation. And this is kind of like maybe something that I've done, but this wasn't who I am. And so I think it's when you're able to separate those two things of what is happening in your life and like what you actually are. I think that's kind of, maybe you can refer back to your conversation with Marquis, but that's like the grace in between like the unconscious and the conscious, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Okay.
What happened with you to make you even become aware that being conscious and unconscious was a thing? Like what was that?
That's a great question. Okay, so once I graduated from Vanderbilt, left college.
Vanderbilt? No, just bypass it. Okay.
I'm educated. Stop. So once I graduated, I was just like not in a good spot because my experience there it was just like not the best. I had a lot of dormant trauma before I got to college. And I think that environment, especially at a place like Vanderbilt, was like high achieving everywhere. Everybody was a valedictorian. We were playing in the SEC. So I think that kind of exasperated a lot of the dormant trauma I had. So once I graduated, I was like raw because I was like unraveling and, you know, kind of seeing all of this for the first time in my life. Like, oh, like I had trauma from this, or, oh, I haven't, you know, processed this. And there was like a slew of things that I just hadn't processed. And so I graduated, and I was, you know, had my first job, but I was also still trying to get into coaching. And I accepted a position at Jacksonville State. And that was when Coach Yo was there. Like, I was really excited to work for her because I thought she was just really good at what she does. And so I accepted the job, and, you know, I'm like a week out from, you know, moving and taking all my stuff to Florida. And the week leading up to that move was kind of like crazy because, you know, I got to, you know, an argument with my family, you know, I got into a car wreck, but it was a car wreck that kind of like was the funny thing because, you know, I felt like once I graduated, I moved back home, I accepted this job. In that time, I was like working on my family stuff. You know, I was working with my family, and it was obviously unresolved because this was the first time that I felt like I had the ability to articulate and understand like what needed to be worked through. And so it was funny because, like I said, we're a week out from me moving down to Florida. And I get into a wreck. I'm just taking my brother. I have a younger brother. I'm just taking him to like go to the pool with his friends or whatever. And so all of a sudden, the car is silent. All of a sudden, there's a Ford F-150 that kind of like T-boned our car and on the driver's side door. And so it was kind of funny because in that moment, you know, my car was absolutely totaled. Like, I couldn't drive anywhere. I couldn't take I couldn't move my stuff down. And it was just like, for the first time in my life, like I was able to kind of see, like, first of all, we could have died. We got out of the car untouched.
Wow.
But it was also totaled. So it was kind of like a sign to me, like, okay, I really need to like stay here, stay with my family, work on our stuff, and then, you know, find an opportunity down the road, which is what I did. And in the moment, it felt hard, but it also felt like the right thing to do because the wreck kind of prevented me from getting to the next step. So I think it was just like, you know, an epiphany for me in a way that was like, wow, like I really, you know, that was the first time I saw the sun, the first time I like heard the birds, you know, seeing my mom for the first time. It was just like the series of events that kind of led up to that wreck. And thereafter was the moment for me that I was like, wow, I've been asleep this whole time. And I was like, what, 22, 23 years old? So that was only like a few years ago. And people think that they're living their lives. And it's like, actually, like you didn't even, like you said, you didn't notice the Black team within the white team. So that was like the moment for me that I think consciousness really became like imminent or apparent, if that makes sense.
For sure. Well, that's beautiful. Could you share with the listeners how they can actively grow in consciousness, especially in the context of healing from your trauma?
Yeah, so actively growing in your consciousness. So I think that a lot of times people don't understand. Well, first, let me put it like this. Like, we travel far from our homes. And when I say home, I mean like our body, like in our body. And so I think, you know, when it comes to just like day-to-day monotonous stuff, you're going to work, you're arguing with your partner, or even having a good time, or, you know, just having emotional capacity for so many other things, but we never take time to like sit back down with us and bring ourselves and re-arrive. And so to me, growing in consciousness is just like literally taking time. Like it's not difficult to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's just the fact that you have to do it every day or do it consistently. And so to me, like for me, it's hot yoga. For me, it's actually taking time to meditate. You know, like I have mala beads. And so I think if you're, you know, a beginner at meditation and you feel like you are struggling with like, it's funny because people say, oh, I can't meditate because I can't focus. Well, like meditation's not focus.
It's not.
I'll get into that next. But, you know, to me, mala beads are really good because you have something that you're focusing on physically, and that kind of helps you like with your stream of consciousness. But I think ultimately when it comes to growing in consciousness, going back to like meditation and focusing, one of my favorite meditation teachers, her name is Tara Brach, and she said that like meditation isn't an act of focusing, it's just an act of re-arriving. So sometimes people get frustrated with themselves, or they'll like kind of shame themselves because they're like, oh, like I try to meditate and I thought about this, what I gotta do at work. And it's just like, don't shame yourself for I guess exploring or straying, but like celebrate re-arriving. So to me, like that's the act of meditation. That's how you grow your consciousness, is like you're constantly re-arriving to yourself. Like you experience a tough moment at work, take 2 minutes to just go to your office. Turn the light off. I work with 18 to 22-year-olds. So I'm just like, all right, now let me
re-arrive on day.
Right. So I'm just like, okay, let me take a moment. But to me, growing your consciousness is literally just taking time to like think about growing your consciousness and doing it.
Ooh. So I remember a time where before I really started my spiritual journey, I was having anxiety attacks all the time. And I mean like literally passing out in public. And it was like happening at least twice a month for about a year. And so I remember the last time I was like, I do not want to do this no more. And not knowing that I was unconsciously living and just kind of moving around, doing stuff, going to the club, doing all the things. And I thought I was having the time of my life, but I really did. And for some reason, anxiety just started kicking in where I would be scared to go to the club. And I remember sitting at the club the last time, and I looked at my friend and I was just like, I'm about to pass out. And she was like, why? And I was like, I'm just about to pass. So I ended up passing out. In that time, I ended up going to an urgent care. And I went to an urgent care at Walgreens. I can never forget it. And the lady literally, I was like, I keep passing out. I think something's wrong with my brain. I went and got a KE, all the tests. They said I was fine. Nothing's wrong. And she was like, she turned the light off. And I was like, what is she about to do to me? But she was like, lady. She was an old white lady. So I was like, what could you? But anyway, so she turned those lights off, and she was like, every time you feel anxiety, you go back to the place where you were the most happiest. And I was like sitting in the dark, and she said, where was that? And at the time I said Hawaii. So I'm back in Hawaii eating fresh pineapples. And then I just start crying because I'm just like, whoa, the peace that came over my body instantly in that dark room. I was like, people wanted to offer me all types of pills, all types of things. And she was like, no, you just need to wake up. You need to wake up and come back, come back home to yourself. And I'm just like, home to myself. Like, what is she talking about? Because at the time, let me tell y'all something. In the beginning, when people start really talking to your spirit, you really think that they're crazy. And a lot of people look at me like, Joy, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? But there will be a day where it will all make sense and you'll go, oh. And people call it woke, but in a slang term way, but you really start to awake to the world around you. And in that room is when I was awakening, like, oh wow. And instantly I go to Walmart, and the moment that I feel anxiety, I'm like, I just close my eyes and start doing some deep breathing, and it goes away. So I haven't had an anxiety attack of that nature in a very long time. Does my heart still start beating sometimes? Yeah, but I know how to do breath work. Now I meditate, like you said. And for those who do say meditation, I can't meditate. It's literally, I tell my clients sometimes, like, if you know how to worry, you know how to meditate. It's the same concept. You're just using positivity as the focus now. And with those beads, instead of saying, I got to pay this bill, I can't pay this bill, oh God, my child, you just start changing it. The bill is paid. And in the beginning of meditation, you will have a ton of thoughts, but you got to keep going. You got to keep pressing past those thoughts and pushing to the better thought. I'm telling you, it works. Yoga is crazy. Okay, now you might start sweating. Let me tell you, one thing yoga taught me is how to breathe. Because if you do not breathe in those positions, it will hurt. And you notice the moment to breathe, Joy, when my Joy, you're not breathing. And the moment I start breathing, I'm like, oh, I can't stand here a little longer. Oh, I can't stand there. It's not that bad. And it works in real life.
Yes.
Like the moment where something's happening, you start breathing, you be like, okay, it's not that bad. I got this. I got it. I got it. So I think all those spiritual practices that the church deems negative have helped my life tremendously. And waking up and being conscious and living consciously, even in a Christ consciousness, it's a different way of viewing everything and everybody around you. So I just appreciate you waking up to yourself as well. Because I can tell, like, even your light, your aura, everything about you it exudes peace and calmness.
Thank you.
And we only get there when we've been through some trials and things of that nature.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's real peace, though. It's like
Yeah.
when you can have that in the chaos, kind of like you said, when you have your moment and then you're like, okay, bring yourself back, and then you're able to find that peace. Like that's a thing. But I don't want to skate past like the language thing either that you mentioned, because you even did that before we even started the interview. You were like, yeah, I'm trying to da 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 da. And you're like, I don't know why I'm trying. Why I say I'm trying, right? Because I
have to switch it.
Yeah,
I am doing it.
But to me, that's like so important. And kind of what you said, sometimes I feel like the practice of meditating, the practice of breathing, the practice of like positive self-talk, they're like viewed as, you know,
what y'all doing over there?
yeah, you know,
Make sure it's coming from a pure place. It's only a pure place. I was made from purity. What do you know? That's all it can be.
You know, but those are like real practices that are very, very simple but super effective. And you know, like your language is a curse.
For sure.
So what you say is gonna become a thing. You know, some people are like, okay, well, you know, I'm gonna pray about it, but I'm like, okay, but what can you work into your life to actually like make it become a thing, right? So to me, I didn't want to skate past the language thing.
It also, because your language, and I say this on my podcast all the time, your language is literally you writing your life out. And it's up to you to, am I going to build this up or am I going to tear it down? Which one are you going to do? And what you focus on, what you ruminate on, all those things create your reality. If you keep thinking about them bills, they're going to pile up.
Because they do. They do.
It was so funny. And if you think about all those negative things, they pile up. But I am a firm believer that there is life and death in your tongue. And we definitely got to start. And even Marquis, I learned something from her, is like starting to speak that thing out loud. Because I write everything down and I'll think about it and I'll meditate on it, and I'll be I'll be in my room doing my thing. But that yelling it out, I am amazing. Like, I'm going to start doing that. And I think everybody on here should too. Start speaking well of yourself and start meditating on the positive instead of the negative. Okay? And it'll change your life. And speaking of that, how has being conscious and adapting that lifestyle helped you on your path towards success?
Yeah, so I feel like first of all, it's helped me with just how I feel about myself. To me, that's been the whole thing, because I know that I'm capable of doing and moving and growing, but it's just like, I've not felt great about myself. And so I think growing my consciousness has helped me like feel good about who I am and how I present myself, and you know, the things that I'm equipped with, whether that's mentally or emotionally. And so that's like first thing. Like I feel good about myself. I feel good about when I'm meeting people, and you know, I feel like I'm really good about meeting people where they're at. So to me, that's been the first thing. But also it's just helped me get clear, like growing my consciousness has helped me get clear about what I actually want. And so that's what's actually helped me grow and be more successful in coaching in particular, because I know what I want, and I know what I'm going to go for, and I know what I'm not going to go for, and I know what I'm willing to accept, and I know what I deserve. So to me, those have been like the growing my consciousness has helped me feel good about myself, and it's helped me get clarity or get clear on what it is I want. And, you know, now that I'm clear on that part, now I know what I need to do to kind of get where I need to be. So it's just like giving me a lot of alignment and, you know, kind of what I said, what I stand for and what I want to represent. So that's how this helped. Growing consciousness has helped me.
I have a question. It just hit me in my sight. You becoming this person from your upbringing, how hard or easy was it for your family to accept you as you?
Yeah, that is a good question. At first, it's been really hard. It's been really hard because, as I mentioned, I'm a first generation college student. So my life experience has been different. You know, I grew up in Gainesville, but I went to Vanderbilt. Like being in Nashville, Tennessee at Vanderbilt, like a PWI, different vibe. So I feel like I was able to just gain different life experience, working with different people. And, you know, also little things like I had therapy my entire time that I was there for free for 4 years, you know, like just being a student athlete there. So when it came to my family, like there was a lot of growing pains because I didn't feel like they were as conscious, you know, they were so committed to being, you know, operating at a lower level, operating below their potential. And, you know, here's me, like I'm realizing my potential and I'm like, come on, like, let's
go up.
Come on, like everybody, come on, let's go. So, you know, I really was like, I had a strained relationship with my family for a really long time. Like I moved out of my mom's house when I was 15. So I've pretty much been on my own, you know, for a long time. So here I am independent. I've been to therapy, so I think I know everything. And so, you know, I just wanted my family to get on the same page and I felt like they weren't. So at the beginning it was really hard, but then once I've become like more emotionally intelligent, like I've understand how to communicate that better. Like, hey mom, can we have this conversation? Or hey, you know, Diamond, my sister, I'm like, maybe you shouldn't, you know, do that. Maybe you it's just allowed me to become softer in our conversations. And it's been really cool. You know, at the beginning, you asked me how my heart was. Like, it's been cool to see my family grow as well. And I feel like I've been able to reconnect with them in a meaningful way because now we're all like at a certain level of consciousness where it's like, okay, now we can actually connect. Now we can take accountability. Now we can like say sorry to each other, which is, you know, something that we don't do in the Black community. So it's just like, to me, it was a journey, and it's still a journey, but it's improved because I feel like having that emotional capacity, that emotional intelligence has helped me, you know, help my family. And that's like where the generational trauma, like that's where that kind of like ends. And it's just like so exciting because I could cry thinking about it because it's just been a long time. It's been generations after generations. And now we're finally reaching like a collective consciousness that can like literally change our family for the rest of our life. Yeah, exactly. So
even after y'all, it's still be in the DNA.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. And I have a nephew now. He's a year old. His birthday's on Juneteenth.
Oh, come on.
So we're celebrating. Yeah, we're celebrating a lot of things. So yeah, I think that's a good question.
And this, I want to encourage somebody who is starting their spiritual journey and their family is not there yet. Y'all, it is not an easy task, but it is very possible. You have to have grace for yourself. And let me tell you, in the beginning, I was rough in the beginning with my people, my friends, my family. I was real rough. And they'll tell you, Joy, you way too aggressive with that. And I'm like, but I really want you to get it. Like, you don't see, like, if you just say this, that it'll happen. No, it's not happening. And people are not going to listen to you at first. They're not going to take heed, but understand that the seeds are being dropped. You say what God told you to say. You leave it there. Don't force, don't push, don't pressure. Everybody's process and journey is different, but where you are is a beautiful place. Have grace for other people and have grace for yourself and keep going. But the journey to being conscious and living that way is a beautiful journey, and the fruits are remarkable. So just please, y'all, be gentle.
Be gentle. And I think also another part to that though is like, and this is what I had a hard time realizing, is that you also have to, and I relate to this to my players as well, like you have to understand what you're asking of people as well, and what they're actually capable of. Like, is what you're asking exceeding what they're capable of, then like you're gonna set yourself up for disappointment every time. Like there's a study that was like a study on stress. So it was like up to a certain point, you like a person can perform well with stress, but once you exceed their capacity for stress, then their performance goes down. And I think that's the same with like giving grace. Like you have to understand what people are actually capable of, and like ask them to operate in that realm, especially when they're not conscious, especially when they haven't been to therapy or like have the emotional capacity to like not take things personally. So I think that's also been an important thing for me to realize.
Meeting someone where they are, basically.
Yes.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Now you said something too about, are there pitfalls in being conscious or living that way?
Pitfalls of being conscious.
Or the challenges that individuals may face?
Yeah, so I don't know that they're necessarily like pitfalls of being conscious, but I think just maybe burdens. Because when I think it comes to, let's just stick with consciousness in the context of like family relationships. When I became conscious, I had the burden of like seeing everything, but not being able to do anything about it.
And that is the absolute word.
That's the burden. Like you're always just aware of things that you don't necessarily have the capacity to change, or maybe not the capacity, but the ability to change.
Like it's not the right time either.
You know, and that's the other thing is like, no, for real, is like you have to kind of wait. Like you have to be in the pocket because, yeah, like the burden. If you try to, I've strained relationships with my siblings like this. I'm like, all you have to do is X, Y, Z.
It's this, and you there. And they be like, no, I'm not.
No, dead serious. I'm telling you, I have one of my brothers. So I have 4 siblings, by the way. So I know I keep referencing my siblings. Like, how many do you have? But so one of my brothers, he's like the most talented MFer I know. Like he has more talent in his pinky than I have in my whole body. And, you know, he's an artist. And so, you know, I'm like, Noah, you know, he's a struggling artist at times. Noah.
My brother's name is Noah.
What? My mom, that is so cute. My mom was like looking through the Bible. All my brother's names are like biblical, first and middle name. So, you know, I share them with you off camera.
Okay, got it.
But anyway, so I just kept trying to force him. I'm like, no, like all you have to do is like get your apprenticeship to be a tattoo artist. You know, you have a beautiful style. People will come to you just for the style. People love tattoos. And then that can be your avenue to like sell your art. And, you know, kind of like you said, the timing, like he just has never been ready. And we were estranged for a long time because he just never felt like he could like come to me with stuff because I always got into like should mode. You should do this, you should do that. Instead of just actually acknowledging that he just, again, didn't feel good about himself, the consciousness piece, right? And now he's like, you know, he's got his, you know, certification to be a trainer. He's becoming more serious about his art. And it was literally timing. Like literally, he called me one day, he was like, you know, I realized what I could do when I focus, like after he got his certification. And I'm like, well, you don't say.
You're right.
You don't. Okay. But yeah, so timing is actually a big thing. And obviously when it comes to timing, you're dealing with people and everybody's timing is different. So I think that's the burden of consciousness is that like your timing isn't everybody's timing. Everybody's timing isn't yours. And y'all's timing isn't the universe's timing. So to me, that all has to kind of be aligned.
Yeah, it does. But I believe that God places us, people like me and yourself, in those spaces to say what is, and learning like who we are, and meaning, you know, like, okay, so I speak this, doesn't mean it's gonna happen today, but I still get to speak this word and speak life and let this person know it may not happen today. And that's what I say now to people, like, I don't know if this is for you or right now or later, but the book is coming. So just be prepared to keep, I don't be writing. Well, that's not what I just heard. You know, like you have everything. I have a best friend that's painting. And for years, I was just like, girl, put the painting out, put the painting out. You know, they do all that. And now, you know, she's in art shows. They're selling $10,000 worth of paintings. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like we see it and it's real. And sometimes I call it, in church, they call them prophets who speak the future. We start to feel bad about ourselves and think that the gift isn't in us when people don't receive it. And this is for the person who does speak life into their whole family and friends. Just because they don't get it now doesn't mean you aren't gifted, doesn't mean that you don't hear. It's just not time for that person to receive it. And sometimes you got to hold it, sometimes you got to release it. And now I just wait for clearance. Sometimes I'll be like, well, I don't have clearance to say that right now, but some good things are coming. And I'll just leave it at that. So, and I can see the same gift inside of you. So look at you catapulting your whole family.
You know, I ain't gonna lie, that's my biggest flex. Other than my credit score, I'm like, I'm really, I'm doing it. So I appreciate you for sharing.
Did you hear the credit score? I cannot take her. Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Heightened consciousness. So y'all, we're going to elevate higher and vibrate higher every day. If you're not doing yoga, meditating, or anything of that nature, I dare you to dive into it. I'll be offering a retreat very soon. If you're interested, DM me. Just say I'm interested for women and men, well, women for the first one. And then we'll probably come together later, do something for everybody. But yoga and all the things are going to be a part of it. I'm be giving a sound bath to let your minds relax.
Y'all pull up.
And come back home to yourselves. So before we go, what's one thing you want to leave the people with so they can chew on?
Leave the people with, I think in light of our conversation, I would just leave them with what I mentioned earlier. It's just like celebrate re-arriving.
Mm-hmm.
Re-arrive. You have a bad day, have a bad conversation, whatever. Even if it's like a good one, a good moment, you won something, you were awarded something, like always re-arrive to like home base. That's why I would leave them with.
And I like that, home base. And you can always come back home. That's the thing.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, you can always come back. And home as in yourself.
Yes.
Not somebody else, but you. It's always open. Once I learned to be alone, I think that was the greatest gift I could have ever given myself. And it was hard because I come from a big family. It's 6 of us. And we were all living together we really had 2 bedrooms. It was 6 kids. And one bath. That's why I look at my parents and be like, and I didn't know that it was that small.
You were just like, vibe.
I was good. I was good. There was never a struggle in my mind at all. Breakfast for dinner, I loved it. You know what I'm saying? So it was certain things that we did as a family that I was just happy growing up, y'all. So once I got on my own, I was just like, where's everybody? Nobody's on top of me. And then I go back to my parents. I'm like, oh, I need a 3-bedroom and it's only me. So, it's like once I learned to be alone, it was a gift to be okay and call myself home versus me feeling bad and having to go somewhere else to find my joy or my peace. Now I have to learn to invite people over. Now I have to learn to invite people in because I'm so good with just being alone with myself.
That's beautiful.
So learn to balance the harmony, as Marquis taught us, the harmony, not the balance, of being with yourself and loving that space. And meditation helped me do so. Reiki as well. Helped me come on back home to myself. And I love that. And I love you. So
Bag. This is lovely.
Coach Jenkins on the couch, y'all.
Yes, for the record, this couch is comfortable. I told her that I thought this was going to be more aesthetic than functional, but it's both. So
no, I wanted all my people to feel at home,
Yeah.
Just sitting and chatting and things like that. So y'all, this is Jasmine Jenkins. And how can they find you? What's your Instagram?
Yeah, so my Instagram is easy. It's at the.jasmine.jenkins.
And she's gonna have a new Instagram in a few.
Sponsored by Joy.
She's gonna have a new Instagram in a few and a podcast. Or we ain't gonna call it a podcast. She's gonna be speaking life. It's what we're gonna push her into, because she has a lot to offer the collective. A lot of things to share and inspire people with. And and you could just walk in and be calm, and that's inspiring.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think you should definitely branch out and show the people who you are.
Maybe I'll circle back and I can be a guest again.
For sure. You're always welcome here.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
Love.
When you come for your birthday, come on back.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's.
And you can walk me through a little child's pose, downward dog, cat cow.
Oh, we're going to hot yoga for sure. Ooh. So that's
hot yoga.
Hot.
How hot?
Like 100 degrees hot.
But see, this
and we'll get CJ over there too.
Listen,
and be like, can we film this?
Right? Because let me tell you, when they say if you need to go to child's pose, I'll be like,
no shame.
I'll be the only one down there.
You're like, actually, I'm going to dead man.
What? And I love when they say lay on your back one. Oh God, that's my favorite one.
You're like, yes.
But
I've been waiting on this.
Hot. I sweat anyway though during regular yoga.
It's okay, we can work through it.
Okay, look, it's cool. You got it.
Yeah, we'll work through it. We'll get there and then we'll work through it.
I love it. Okay. Well, y'all, thank y'all for joining us. If you need any information, her links are in the bio. in the description below. So y'all keep in touch with Jasmine. Send her some love every now and again, okay? And follow her because she's amazing. And remember, if nobody's told you today, I love you. And no matter what you do, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've been through, there's always room for you right here on the couch. Till next time. Peace.
Wow.